Welcome back to the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass. In part 1, we left the rescue team standing under an old cedar tree. They had found 2 bodies, stripped to their underwear, frozen in the snow. They also found the bodies of Igor Dyatlov and 2 others nearby, who died trying to crawl back to the tent. But that was only 5 people. Where were the other 4? The search continued for weeks. But the weather was brutal. It wasn't until May 2 months later, when the snow began to melt, that a Mansi hunter's dog picked up a scent. They started digging in a ravine about 75 meters away from the cedar tree. Buried under 4 meters of hard-packed snow, they finally found them. The last 4 hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina, Semyon Zolotaryov, Alexander Kolevatov, and Nikolai Thibobrino-Lewis. They were huddled together on a makeshift bed of branches. It looked like they had tried to survive until the very end. But when the coroner examined their bodies, the case turned from a tragedy into a horror story. The first 5 hikers had died of hypothermia, simply freezing to death. But these 4 in the ravine were different. They had died from massive, catastrophic trauma. Nikolai had a crushed skull. Semyon and Lyudmila had multiple broken ribs. The force required to cause this damage was immense. The doctor compared it to the impact of a car crash, moving at high speed. But here's the impossible part. There were no external bruises. It was as if they had been squeezed to death by a giant high-pressure force that crushed their bones without breaking their skin. And then there was Lyudmila. When they examined her face, the seasoned investigators were horrified. Her eyes were missing, her lips were missing, and most terrifying of all, her tongue was gone. Not just bitten off. The root of the tongue was ripped out. Some say it was small scavenger animals eating the soft tissue as the snow melted. But many believe something else happened that night. Something that made her scream so hard, or something that silenced her forever. The mysteries didn't stop at the autopsy table. During the funerals, the families noticed something deeply disturbing. The skin of the hikers was not pale white, as you would expect from frozen bodies. It was a strange, deep orange-brown color, like a bad sunburn or chemical exposure. And their hair had turned completely gray. Adding to the paranoia, a radiologist named Lev Ivanov brought a Geiger counter to examine the clothes. The device started clicking wildly. He found radioactive contamination on the sweaters and pants of the hikers found in the ravine. Why would a group of students hiking in the middle of nowhere be radioactive? This piece of evidence terrified the Soviet authorities, immediately classified the case files as top secret. They banned hikers from the area for 3 years. This secrecy gave birth to the biggest theory of all. It was the Dyatlov group killed by their own government. On the night of the incident, another group of hikers about 50 kilometers away reported seeing strange, glowing orange spheres floating in the sky over Kholat Syakhl. The theory goes like this. The Soviet military was testing a new weapon, perhaps a parachute mine or a rocket that malfunctioned. The weapon exploded in the air above the campsite. The blast wave, an invisible wall of high pressure, slammed into the hikers. This explains the crushed ribs without external bruises. It explains the orange spheres seen by witnesses. It explains the radiation on their clothes. It explains the orange tint of their skin. The hikers, blinded and terrified by the chemical blast, cut their tent and ran into the forest to escape the toxic cloud. Did they see something they weren't supposed to see? For 60 years, the families fought for the truth. In 2020, modern science finally offered an answer. Swiss researchers used computer simulations, the same technology used in the movie Frozen, to recreate the snow conditions. They concluded it was a slab avalanche. A small, heavy block of snow broke off and slid onto the tent while they slept. It didn't bury them, but it hit them hard enough to crush their chests. Panicked and injured, they cut the tent to escape the suffocating snow. In the freezing wind, they became disoriented. The missing tongue and eyes were simply the result of natural decomposition in the ravine stream. It is the most logical explanation, but for many, it doesn't explain the radiation, doesn't explain the orange spheres, and it doesn't explain the fear in their diaries. The Dyatlov Pass incident is officially closed. But on the windy slopes of the Dead Mountain, the truth remains buried under the snow. What do you believe? Is it nature, or was it a cover-up? Let me know in the comments.